Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Ready to get into this mock draft because we are getting closer. It's just around the corner now. The NFL draft is going to be here, and the 49ers are going to have to make selections. And I think we're starting to kind of hone in on what positions they're potentially taking in each round. And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen exactly this way. But I do believe that we've got it kind of narrowed down to a couple positions, especially early on in this draft, that the 49ers are going to look to target. When you look at what they've done when it comes to the offseason, when you look at what they haven't done during the offseason, and then you look at some of the trends that come with the 49ers' normal drafting philosophy, Robert Saleh's normal drafting philosophy, and just the way that the board is probably going to sit in each round, that's how you kind of start deciphering and working through what the 49ers are going to do in each round. Now, it's a lot easier to predict position the 49ers are potentially going to hit by what they've done in the offseason than it is to hit the actual player. Now, that is very difficult. Now, of course, you can narrow some things down. You can get it to within a few players, and hopefully you're correct. But it's really tough. You hit one every once in a while, and that's going to be the tough part, is locating the player. It does happen. I have had some hits in the past. I've had some misses in the past, more misses than hits. That's just how it works because you don't have the inner workings of the room. But every once in a while, you'll get one right. And for whatever reason, my best success normally happens in the third round. I'm not saying those players are usually, have to be great, but they are 49er picks. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do, is hit on who the 49ers are going to take. And I've hit a few of those. Danny Gray was one of those that I targeted early. Thought he would be a third-round pick to the 49ers. He was. The fit with Trey Lance fit really well. Last year it was Dominic Pooney. I thought Dominic Pooney was the quintessential 49ers interior offensive lineman, which it worked out. But for all of those, right, there's the misses. I said wide receiver in round one last year. I had Adonai Mitchell being that wide receiver, and it wasn't. It was Ricky Pearsall. So you have those situations. Position right, player wrong. And so trying to figure it out is going to be one of the keys. And we're going to go through this mock draft and try to figure it out as well. And, we don't know what the trade market's going to look like. I'll evaluate trades as we go. But really, it's going to be about trying to select the right position and not miss out on guys. So that's one of our focuses in this mock draft, is to start setting the table for what the 49ers draft is going to look like. Because by the time we get to the week of the draft, we got to hit a final mock draft and try to figure out what the 49ers are going to do. That's going to be very difficult, but we're just going to keep getting better and better with all the information that comes out of Santa Clara with this team. So this is going to be a fun one. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Hopefully I can talk about some players that you know, maybe some players you don't know. Keep kind of raising, are putting flashing lights on these guys, bright lights, so you guys can see prospects you haven't heard about or talked about, and it'll kind of shine a light of who the 49ers are looking at and where they're looking at. So we're just going to go ahead and put on the mock draft simulator, and as you can see, it's queued up, and we're going to let this thing roll to 11. There's no trade up that I'm willing to do. Plus, I think everyone's going to be gone that you would potentially trade up for. They are, and things are going pretty swimmingly. So the Rams are offering a huge haul, 26, 90, and 101, a second and a third. And I think that this would be crazy good value to trade back. But for the sake of wanting to go through what the 49ers could do, I'm going to ignore that. And so I would have been willing to drop back 5, 6, 7 spots potentially. But because I want to have this conversation. So look at this. They had Kelvin Banks in for a 30 visit. They'll probably have more guys in as well. But Kelvin Banks, and they had Mike Green. so far in for visits. They had Mikael Williams. He came in for a visit as well as of right now. Walter Nolan came in for a visit. Now, do they have Walter Nolan come in for a visit because they thought he could potentially be a target at 11? Could he potentially be a target if they trade back? Or do they believe, like Mel Kiper's been kind of saying, that there's a chance Walter Nolan falls in the second round? And if he does fall in the second round, could they be considering him for a trade up? So that's something to kind of think about as we see guys who are starting to shift, right? Here's a guy down here in James Pierce Jr., who would have been a top 10 pick when we were coming into this process. Now he's all the way down here at the end of the first round. The 49ers met with Tyleik Williams. You can see that in the second round here. Donovan Jackson, they've met with as well. So you've got a lot of talent, especially up here high, but you can see first round to second round talent and who they've met with so far. That's who they've been spending the chunk of their visits with right now. So for me in this position, and I see Derek Harmon here, they met with him at his pro day. I'm going to not go defensive tackle in round one. I know they met with Walter Nolan. I'm going to go either offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks, or edge rusher, Mike Green. And I haven't taken either one of these guys in any of the mock drafts we've done. We have went edge defender before. We took Nick Scorton early on in the process. Now he's meeting with Philadelphia. I think a signal that he's probably going to go in the late first round. So he's kind of fallen as this process has continued, even though he's a dynamic player. So these are the two choices. The guy who starts at left guard and eventually becomes left tackle of the future. I think it's a legitimate possibility. Or Mike Green, who is the most D-forward player that you're going to get in this draft, the speed element off the edge. I think the only one that kind of gives you the same sort of thing is Abdul Carter. And then you've got a version of Mike Green and Donovan Ezeraku. I think they're close. Those three guys are the best benders in this draft. But I do think Mike Green is better than Ezeraku bending the corner. Got a little bit of a more elite first step. That's why you might consider Mike Green here. This would be a very Robert Saleh, go get Will McDonald type deal, a D'Amico Ryans go get Will Anderson type deal. So that's who we're looking at here. So do you want to go the future of offensive tackle? Maybe he starts at guard. I think he would start at guard day one. Or do you want to go with the closer, pass rusher, need? Both of these positions are need. I think just reading the tea leaves with the amount of edge rushers the 49ers have met, I'm going to lean towards edge in this mock draft. And with pick 11, I'm going to select Mike Green. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to see how this plays out in round 2, round 3, and beyond as we put a focus on defense. And I get it. Kelvin Banks would be a phenomenal pick here. And I would love that. If they chose Kelvin Banks, I'm excited because I know how much better that will make the offensive line and that will set us up for the future. But getting a pass rusher opposite of Nick Bosa that can close games out in the fourth quarter is also huge. So we're going Mike Green, edge rusher, Marshall, the leading sack getter in all of college football. And yes, it was at Marshall, but he played well against the big dogs as well, against Ohio State, against Virginia Tech. So here we go. Mike Green is the pick. So now we sit at 43, and we're going to see what ends up being there as we see some really good football players coming off the board. Now, we know that, there's probably no chance Walter Nolan slides into the second round. You never know. We'll keep an eye on that. Walter Nolan will probably go here at the end. There he goes to Detroit, and a great pick for them. You see Donovan Ezeraku going to Kansas City. Solid choice. Donovan Jackson, one of my probably my favorite interior offensive lineman in this whole draft. And there goes Kenneth Grant. I would have considered Kenneth Grant. I think the 49ers would as well. So Kansas City's offered pick 63 and a 2026 second. Not really interested in next year value to drop back 20 spots. And then Miami comes with a deal that I think is pretty enticing. So drop back 5 spots and then move up 62. I do like that one. So let's look at the board first. So here's Tyleik Williams. The 49ers just brought him in for a 30 visit. This right here would set the tone for your one tech. You could get Tyleik Williams. He's big. He moves quickly. He's 6'4". He's over 330 pounds, but this dude has registered a 4.68 40 in his history. So this dude can move sideline to sideline. Got athleticism. I think he's got upside when it comes to pass rush. I don't think upside as far as he's going to be a double-digit guy, but could he get you 5 sacks from a one tech? I think he possibly could. So I love Tyleik Williams right here. I think I'm probably higher on Tyleik Williams than a lot of people are. Really like him in the situation. So they met with Landon Jackson, but we went edge rusher already. We don't need to go there. Here's Trey Amos, who I believe is a first-round corner and would be a dynamite selection. I do, however, believe the 49ers would go with Tyleik Williams potentially over Trey Amos in the second round because they want to build the defensive line. As you see, when you're looking defensive tackle, you have to go a little bit. Now, they met with TJ Sanders, so he would be a possibility for the 49ers to go there. So you don't have to get your one tech right now. I've been saying this for a while. DJ Jones was a 6th-round pick. You could miss out on Tyleik Williams and still hit TJ Sanders, who would be a 3 tech. And then you could get your 1 tech later on. You've also got Alfred Collins you could hit, right? He's somebody I haven't met with yet as far as the 30 visits. A 30 visit meeting with Omar Norman Lott happened. So you could go there at 75. So you could go corner in round 2 with Trey Amos and still be able to get a penetrating defensive end with pick 75, potentially with Omar Norman Lott. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this trade offer because I see guys that are available. This right here, I believe, is a successful trade because we can get another top 100 pick in the 3rd round, and we want to address a few other positions. So fall back 5 to pick up 62 is just too good with guys like TJ Sanders and Darius Alexander and, and those type of guys, Tyleik Williams there, Trey Amos potentially. We'll see how this thing falls out, and then we'll talk about it again. And so Harrison goes, Henderson goes, Morrison goes, Amos goes, JT Tuomoloau goes. So here's another trade. I'm not going to be crazy and trade back again, which would have been a huge value, but let's just not do that. I think that's, we're going to take away from the whole process. So Tyleik Williams is still there. I think Tyleik Williams is probably the number one tech left on the board. I think there's tremendous value going with him. I think there's still 2, really good penetrators left with TJ Sanders. There's actually Darius Alexander, who's pretty good as well. You still got Alfred Collins later, which you could wait. Will he be there at 75? But you still have Omar Norman Lott, who I have a 2nd-round grade on, who I think is a top 5 defensive tackle in this draft, still sitting there. Potentially we could get him at 75 and completely reshape this defense. And I get it. There's a lot of good players on the board. A guy like Carson Swessinger, right? Interior offensive lineman like Jonas Savahi-Naya, Wyatt Millum, Arianti Ursary. You've got the corner, right? And Azarie Thomas, who we're fans of, Tate Ratledge. So much talent here. But Tyleik Williams changes your defense because he's a elite run stopper. Alfred Collins would do the same thing, but Alfred Collins has no upside when it comes to stopping the run. We're going Tyleik Williams. We picked up an extra 3rd-round pick, moving 5 spots, and still got the guy we ultimately wanted. And so right now, we're seeing guys go off the board as we're working towards 75. I'm not really interested in trading up. I want to get a lot of guys in this draft. We picked up the extra 3rd. Mike Green, Tyleik Williams. So we're got a little bit better against the run and got better against the pass when it comes to pass rush. So we're working towards it. Jaden Higgins goes at the end of the 2nd round. There goes Kyle Williams. TJ Sanders would have been a target at 75. He's off the board. But we're still going to have guys. So here's a trade. Not interested in this trade. That's falling back too far. So you got Olufemi Oladejo, from UCLA. This is a former linebacker who translated to playing edge. Solid player. Darius Alexander, he's kind of a duplicate of Tyleik Williams to a point where I think he's got pass rush skills, but I don't love him as a 3 tech penetrator compared to some of the other guys that are on the board. So here's a 30 visit, Harold Fannin Jr. I think he would be a potential target for the 49ers. There's also some other tight ends. I'll go to tight ends real quick that I like. So I like Gunnar Helm, of course, Elijah Arroyo, the athleticism, Terrence Ferguson. They have not met with them. They met with Jackson Hawes, which is a late round tight end. So, he was a 30 visit. Could the 49ers be waiting for tight end until later? That's something to consider as well. So we also have to get cornerback at some point. It looks like a lot of the cornerbacks went off the board that we like early, but the 49ers have been meeting with guys around here. Kobe Bryant. So we got that extra 3rd-round pick. Kobe Bryant, a 30 visit. Quincy Riley, a 30 visit, right? We know everyone loves Jacob Parrish. Guys they've met in the process, Tommy Hill. They've met with Noel Williams. They met with Zaw Frazier. These are all guys, right, that we like that are later on in this draft that the 49ers have met with. Kobe Bryant, a 30 visit means, yeah, they're probably interested in the player. And I said this on Twitter. If you're interested in Kobe Bryant right here, you're probably interested in Robert Longerbeam from Rutgers later on in this draft because they are very close to similar players, undersized as far as weight, but some of the best with closing speed, being able to drive on the football. So let's go back to the board. Andrew Makuba, they met with early in the process. I don't think now they're going to go safety. I would love safety. I think the decision is, and I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, look, there's Jared Wilson. Kyle Shanahan's comments don't make me feel comfortable that they're going to draft a center to eventually replace him. So I have to look in other places. I love Cameron Williams. I think he would be a great offensive lineman in this situation. He's fallen. I took him in my last mock draft. Omar Norman Lott, right here. We already got the 1 tech. We could get the 3 tech. That is the best pass rusher when it comes to interior defensive line. That's what his grade was. Over a 20% win rate on pass rush. I know a lot of people have concerns about him against the run, but I think when you're talking about a guy that could come in, right, you could play Evan Anderson on first and second down, or even the guy we just got, Tyleek Williams, play him on first and second down. Omar Norman Lott coming in with Mike Green and Nick Bosa. Maybe Yetur Gross-Matos rushes the passer with the other, with that set as well. That's pretty impressive. Ashton Gelati, the other guy with a crazy win rate. This guy's pass rush win rate, or pass rush percentage, as far as how good he is, a 98%. Like, this dude wins as well. When you're talking about winners, Ashton Gelati, Omar Norman Lott. Now, Gelati plays edge most of the time. He's more of the Arden Key role. Lott is the tackle. I have a second round grade on Lott. We're at pick 75. We're going Omar Norman Lott. And we're going to see what this thing looks like when we get to pick 98, the pick we picked up. And look, there goes Ashton Gelati. There goes Jared Wilson, Alfred Collins, Olufemi Oladejo. So, the Seattle Seahawks just got 2 really good players at once. Harold Fannin Jr., I know a lot of people love him at tight end. And we're getting to the tight end range with who they've met with so far because they've met with Harold Fannin. This is the position they could potentially go with. So we just lost who would have been my number 1 tight end target in Terrence Ferguson in this area. So tight end, this is probably the first time I'm thinking offense. I didn't want to go until 100, but you're at 98. So let's look at what the board looks like. You've got Josiah Stewart, we don't need an edge. Elijah Arroyo, great tight end option. We win interior defensive line. We could go there again. Here's linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr. There is a chance he could be here. I know a lot of people think he's a second-round pick. I think there's a chance that Knight could be here. I think the 49ers are looking for linebacker in mid-rounds, and I think there's a lot of guys to really like in the mid-rounds to get. A guy that they should like in Jodis Senker. I don't know if you're going to go safety this high. Savion Williams, Michelle Tootin, right? Here's Kobe Bryant. We're getting close to corner range. In the next 2 picks, we might want to go cornerback and kind of start putting some things together. I know we haven't went offensive line yet, and there are some guys that we're going to have to hit. There's still guys like Chase Lunt later. The fact that Jack Sawyer's here is crazy to me. But here's Quincy Riley later, so we could go cornerback there. We don't have to go cornerback early because the 49ers like so many of the different cornerbacks. Here's Logan Brown. We have an offensive lineman. Here's Miles Frazier, right? So here's 2 guys. Kobe Bryant, 30 visit. Miles Frazier, offensive guard, LSU, 30 visit. Those are some guys that we could potentially hit on later. Linebacker, I think, is somewhere we could hit on later. So what am I talking about when it comes to linebacker? So here's some guys that I think are in the mix for the 49ers. Demetrius Knight, of course. Teddy Buchanan out of Cal. He went to the local pro day. I think he is definitely somebody they'd be interested in. Jeffrey Bossa, we saw John Lynch talking to him at his pro day. So I think he's a possibility. I think when you get later in the draft, a guy like Carson Bruner fits. He makes sense for the 49ers. Chandler Martin should not be ranked 325. Okay, I've been talking about him this entire process, and if you've watched my mock drafts, I've actually drafted Chandler Martin. I think that he should be a early day 3 pick or a mid day 3 pick at the latest. Field Yates just put a 4th round grade on Chandler Martin just to show you how good he is. The guy's 6 foot, 230 pounds. He can run sideline to sideline. He's a great player. I think he is Demetrius Knight playing at a smaller school at Memphis. Like, that's basically who he is. So linebackers in the mix, as we're going to make 3 picks here really quick. And we've got to hit probably a few positions. Linebacker would be one of them, and I don't think that's, really an issue. Farmer would be nice here to get another defensive tackle. We see CJ West, who's one of the, 49er fans' favorites. Here's Kobe Bryant. Here's Miles Frazier, who we could hit. He was on the 30 visit. We could easily go with Frazier and play him at guard. John Lynch did say they wanted to approach guard in this draft. So I think that's a possibility. I want to look at the tight ends real quick and see who's available. So Elijah Arroyo is the most athletic tight end left as far as move tight end. We could wait and go later and get one of these other guys like, Conyers, Urasek, right? Some of those guys we could go with later. I think there's a lot of value for Elijah Arroyo here in a pick that we got later. So we lost Gunnar Helm. He went, and we also lost right before Terrence Ferguson as the Chiefs jumped ahead of us. That would have been a dynamite selection. But I think because we want to make sure that we get a solid move tight end, we're going to get Elijah Arroyo here and not wait because we want to get the value. This is going to be the first offensive player that we get is going to be tight end in this range where they think Harold Fannin could go. So Elijah Arroyo to the 49ers. Knight goes next, so that makes our decision. That's a tough one. So we miss out on Demetrius Knight. There's going to be some other guys. I'm not going to do the trade there. So Cam Scatterbu, now we're getting into potentially that range where we start looking running back. You've got the defensive tackle in Joshua Farmer. I think he's potential. Michelle Tutin. Here's Kobe Bryant, and here's Miles Frazier. We could easily try to get these two guys who the 49ers met with in our next 2 picks. Address cornerback, which is a need, and address offensive line, which is a need. I like Logan Brown. We like Jacob Parrish. Down here a little bit, you got Chase Lunt. He's potential. Jack Sawyer being here is crazy. Danny Stutzman, I believe, is one of the best run-stopping linebackers in this draft. Quincy Riley, we know they like. So you see Anthony Belton is starting to slip down the rankings. He was a solid 3rd-round pick a little while ago. Jamari Caldwell kind of staying pat as we see some of these guys move. And how about Jalen Travis? So check this out. Jalen Travis was considered a 7th-round pick 2 weeks ago. Now he's moved up into the 5th round as far as rankings go. That is crazy as you see guys moving up and down boards as people try to figure out exactly where everyone's going to go. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to watch. So we'll go back up to the top. I think we're going to make sure we address some key positions that the 49ers are going to have to address. And I do like potentially getting a guy like Kobe Bryant. Now, the one thing about Kobe Bryant is the 180 pounds. But when you're talking about a guy that can absolutely move and drive on the football, he can do it. So the question is he going to be physical enough to be able to, play, tough enough? That's going to be the question. But when you're talking about elite coverage skills, he's one of those guys. If you're looking for a dog, Jacob Parrish, he's going to be a guy that is very physical. If we're addressing cornerback, here's Quincy Riley as well. Riley is one of those guys that is a little bit undersized, but really good. He's been one of my favorites this entire process. So I really like him a lot. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go offensive line here with Miles Frazier. And we're just going to make sure that we get our offensive guard here in the, that pick at the end of the round that just, make sure that we don't lose out on our our guard that can come in and compete. So we're going to go Miles Frazier here. I know a lot of people would love for me to go CJ West, but we went Tyleik Williams earlier. So we address offensive guard at pick 100, and now we see who's going to be available. I think we could go cornerback with the next pick, especially if Kobe Bryant is available. Quincy Riley just went. So that would have been one of the guys I consider. Joshua Farmer goes. So we're not going to think too much, and I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going Kobe Bryant as the next pick. He met with the 49ers. One of the best guys as far as like sticking to guys in coverage. So I think he would be a really good selection. The thing is going to be weight. How is he going to handle physicality? The 49ers are probably trying to figure that out. I'm going Kobe Bryant. I've never taken him in a mock draft. I'm going to do it in this one because I love the conversation points as we work towards our next selection. So far, Mike Green. Tyleik Williams, Omar Norman Lott. We addressed the defensive line in the first 3 picks. Got the move tied in Elijah Arroyo, who's got a lot of upside when it comes to receiving. Miles Frazier, the interior offensive lineman at pick 100. And then Kobe Bryant, the cornerback out of Kansas. So now we get to our next pick. And CJ West has somehow made it to the end of the 4th round, which is crazy, right? Now, the problem is you've already got Tyleik Williams and you've already got Evan Anderson on the roster. You did draft 1 3-tech. You've got CJ West and Jamari Caldwell, who are 1-techs if you're looking to go defensive line again. You haven't went linebacker. Here's Teddy Buchanan. I think he's a possibility right here. You look at, where you're going to go at some other positions, and you start having some, a guy like Elijah Roberts, that's another undersized, penetrator. Do you want to go 1-tech again? I think that is probably not the way to go, is go 1-tech. I think a guy like Brashad Smith would be in the mix. Here's Jack Nelson, who I like. Aeneas Peebles, one of the best pass rushers when you're talking defensive tackle. So let's take a look at the defensive tackles real quick so we can decide on what we want to do with West since he's fallen this far. So J.J. Pegues is also probably a 1-tech, but has some versatility to move around. Riley Mills, Elijah Roberts, more of the penetrator. Same with Simeon Barrow and Aeneas Peebles. Those who those guys are. So here's Ty Robinson. We could probably get later. A guy like Vernon Broughton, that would be a little bit of a depth piece as well. So it's just, is there too much value with CJ West? And you're talking big body. There might just be too much value here for him. You have Kevin Givens, that's a penetrator. You got Jordan Elliott, that's probably going to be a 1-tech. This is one of those tough ones. Linebacker, you got Stutzman, who I'm probably higher on than most. Stutzman, 6'3", 233. He did run a 4.5. That was more athletic than people thought he was going to be. I think this is a good range for Danny Stutzman. The question is going to be, how good is he going to be in coverage? But we are in round 4. This is like mid-round area for him. We also could go wide receiver, which we haven't addressed either. Isaac Tesla, who's been moving up boards. I kind of like him, but I like his teammate as well. Galen Lane, the speedster. Isaiah Bond's going to tumble after the legal issues that are going on. I like some of these guys later on in this draft. Brew McCoy, Andrew Armstrong, Keandre Lambert-Smith. We could all get those guys late, and I think they'd be solid players. So I'm going to wait on wide receiver at this point. We went tight end already. So I think it comes down to CJ West, Danny Stutzman, or Teddy Buchanan. Get one of those linebackers. I know RJ Harvey's here. I believe going running back really late because the 49ers have a lot of guys already. So I'm not going to get anyone very high. I think this is interesting. I think CJ West is probably the best player on the board. Maybe there's a chance that Danny Stutzman would get to 147. But CJ West would improve this defense entirely. So, like Caldwell too, though. So it's like one of those things, if you took Stutzman and you missed out on CJ West, you could get Caldwell. But West is the better player, more upside. We're going CJ West. I can't talk myself out of it. We'll probably lose Danny Stutzman. I know a lot of people don't like him. They're afraid of his athleticism. But I'm not afraid to draft different guys. And here we are in the 5th round where the 49ers love to hit linebacker. It's worked out before. They've hit some really good players in this area. RJ Harvey is still there. So Teddy Buchanan, 6'2", 233. Did a pretty good job. Played in my backyard at UC Davis and then went to Cal Berkeley. Then you got Danny Stutzman, who I think is probably the best run stopper, especially available right now. This dude is crazy. And a lot of people have problems with the fact that he wore, a neck brace, right? That he wore the horseshoe. I don't really have a problem with it. This is kind of the range that I want to hit on linebacker in this draft. And so I'm going to go Danny Stutzman. I've never taken him in a mock. I think this one would be interesting. And I think he would just add to this defense. And then we're going to have a long fall. So we're going to miss out on some guys. But we're going to go with some late round gems to help us out. We did some trades earlier to get more top 100 picks. And I think it benefited us greatly. So Danny Stutzman's the pick. I like him. I think he's more athletic than people think. As people go off the board, we'll look at what we did so far. Mike Green, speed off the edge. Tyleik Williams, hyper athleticism at the 1-tech. Omar Norman Lott, crazy athletic 3-tech. Elijah Arroyo, the move tight end. Miles Frazier establishing the guard position and coming in to compete at left guard. Kobe Bryant, a guy that's sticky in coverage, that's a little undersized when it comes to weight, but has some real ability to make some plays. TJ West, just too good at the end of the fourth round to pass up on. Couldn't be there, but if he is, you got to hit it. And then Danny Stutzman, linebacker, who's more athletic than potentially people think. So we have 3 picks left in the draft, all 7th round picks, and we are going to try to hit on some guys like that have elite traits. So position, as far as that goes, doesn't entirely make sense. It doesn't matter. We are going to take a wide receiver with one of those picks. I think we do need to pick up a wide receiver. If there's value, we could pick up another linebacker, value another cornerback, potentially maybe an offensive lineman late. I think that you just keep looking for more value wherever you can find it. So let's look at the board and see who's there. Vernon Broughton would be a very solid player. Jalen Conyers, you did take a tight end earlier, so probably not the best way to go. Jaquavius Marks, solid running back. There are running backs down in this area that I like as well that the 49ers could target. Craig Woodson, I think this would be a solid safety position to draft. I do like Craig Woodson. The problem is the 49ers signed so many guys in the offseason. I don't know if that makes sense for the 49ers. So we're getting deep into this. Gerard Christian Lichtenhan, I just broke him down recently. You're talking 6'8", 315 pounds, still developing. So here's where you get to the wide receivers, right? Here's Brew McCoy. McCoy makes a lot of sense. Here's Robert Longerbeam. If you want to double up on cornerback, he is like Kobe Bryant as far as, now he goes about 185, so he is bigger than Kobe Bryant. But you talk about drive on the football. Andrew Armstrong, I love this guy at wide receiver. I think that he should be a lot higher. He should probably go in the 5th round. That's how talented I think he is. Same thing with Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think those guys should be higher in this process. Jackson Woodard, one of the better linebackers. Now, I got a guy that's a Jackson Woodard-esque with Stutzman, so we don't need Jackson Woodard. He would be the guy you get if you don't get Danny Stutzman later on. So here, Aaron Smith, super athletic guy. DeRicky Wright is an interesting guy because he could change positions because he's a really big, potential safety that could move to linebacker. And we know the 49ers like to do that. So DeRicky White would be somebody interesting. O'Donnell Fortune, one of the better cornerbacks when it comes to zone coverage in this area. So there's a lot of guys on this that I like that are athletic. There's a lot of guys we can get later. I think we're going to address wide receiver or cornerback right here with some guys that I think are very talented. I talked about how much I like Andrew Armstrong. I think he's going to be a very solid player. So it's going to come down to Andrew Armstrong or Brew McCoy for this one. McCoy is the most, to me, Jawan Jennings-esque player in this. A little bit more athletic. Got the ability to break tackles, get yards after the catch. I mean, these two dudes right here. Now, Armstrong had over 1,100 yards receiving. I think that he's extremely talented, and they could easily go with Andrew Armstrong right here or Brew McCoy. Those are the two guys I'm thinking about. I like both players. I'm not opposed to taking either one. I think for this, both these guys could play X receiver. I'm going to go with production in this one. I've taken Brew McCoy before. I'm going to take Andrew Armstrong in this one. And it doesn't mean when we get to the final mock draft that I won't change it. But I do like Andrew Armstrong. 6'3", over 200 pounds, ran a 4.5 40. He's a guy that can make some plays. And so I like him a lot. I think that he's a very talented guy. Brew McCoy, almost the same size. The thing with him is he was definitely seen as somebody that was going to be better down the road. But let's go Armstrong. Maybe next time I'll go with McCoy or Keandre Lambert-Smith. This is kind of that hot spot. And just so everyone knows, like Elijah Huzzy, right? This is still a spot the 49ers are meeting with guys at cornerback. So that's why I was talking Robert Longerbeam earlier. So Andrew Armstrong's the pick at 227. We have 2 picks left at the end of the 7th round, and we're going to look for elite traits. So we wanted to go wide receiver. Now it's all about getting somebody that has something that's a little bit different that the 49ers could potentially throwing. Like O'Donnell Fortune would have been somebody that's great in zone coverage. So I'm going to go with Robert Longerbeam here. I'm not going to think about it too much. And I get it. Uh, there's a lot of talented guys on the board, but Robert Longerbeam, if you haven't watched him, this would be the quintessential Kobe Bryant pick late because he's built very similar and plays very similar. So he's 5'11", 175 pounds. Now, he is up a little bit in weight, but this is a dude that can absolutely cover like crazy. The question is he going to be able to tackle consistently, right? He had a missed tackle rate of 17.5, but he comes up and he plays hard. And we want to look for guys who can stick when it comes to value late that have an elite trait. And his elite trait is he drives on the football and gets out of his back pedal with some of the best in the entire college football. Like that is an elite trait for him. And so if he can overcome some of those physical limitations by putting on more weight, getting a little bit stronger, Longerbeam is the Kobe Bryant. We've seen the 49ers double up at positions with similar players and it work out. I think this is where we go cornerback and we keep the focus on defense with another selection here with a guy that has some elite talent. Now, the question is for the last pick, we could easily go running back. We could wait until undrafted free agents and potentially get someone there. As here's a guy that I really like in Montrell Johnson. Now, it looks like he's going to be an undrafted free agent. 4'1" at over 6 foot. He's got some ability. There are some guys you could potentially get, right? Marcus Yarns, undrafted free agent. You could get him as a priority free agent. So there are guys out there. We probably don't have to go running back. A lot of people probably would have loved for me to go it later. I think that we'll look at safety because they're always special teams guys. Here's DeRicky White, right? A guy we talked about that could change positions potentially. Shiloh Sanders. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I think he's got some ability there. That's the safety position. I think they're loaded at safety. So who would make the team? We've drafted 2 cornerbacks. Probably not going to go there. We'll look at edge. Johnny Walker, not bad. RJ Oben would be a good pick. Potentially, if we wanted to double up on edge, we did go a lot of, D-line already. There's still guys here. We could probably get somebody as a priority free agent, so we don't have to hit there. We still got Kevin Givens on the team. He could be a rotational 3-tech, so we don't have to worry about that. I think that offensively, we address wide receiver. Running back, we're going to go priority free agent. We got a tight end. We could go quarterback. I mean, here's Brady Cook. I just think you get one of those guys priority free agent as well. We'll look at offensive tackles. Gerard Christian Lichtenhan, that's another priority free agent I think you wait on. We went interior offensive line, which I think is what the 49ers are going to do, and I want to make that clear. Doesn't mean that this is what I would do. This is what I think the 49ers would do. And so I'm trying to draft the best I can with that thought process in mind. We're not going center. We have guys who are developmental centers as far as, they signed priority free agents last year. So what I'm going to do is I have a guy that I've honed in on. I talked about him earlier, and I just think there's too much athleticism and too much bang for your buck to not go with the elite skills of Chandler Martin. So Chandler Martin, 5'11", 229 pounds, and this dude can absolutely run. And there are linebackers down here in this area that can absolutely run, but this dude has some of the best instincts that I've seen. Jalen Walker is another one that I am a huge fan of out of Indiana. So he would be another great selection. I do like, some of these guys here, Carson Bruner, like these dudes all right here are running. These guys all have a lot of speed and athleticism. Kay Madrano's been pretty good. Eugene Asante, right? Another guy. So you could see linebacker late fits what the 49ers want to do. And so what we want to do is double up on a couple of positions. So we did defensive tackle. We made sure we got 3 defensive tackles in this draft. We doubled up on cornerback, and I think you need to depth-wise. And I think we need to double up on linebacker because we're going to get extremely athletic. And I'm going to take Chandler Martin. But I am a big fan of Jalen Walker. I think that dude is a stud. I'm even doing more work on him, but he is a very fun player. Chandler Martin's going to be the pick, though. Undersized, run, all over the place. Should not be ranked in the 7th round. This guy should go, 5th, 6th round, I think, is probably the hotbed for him. So Chandler Martin, Memphis, is going to be the pick. And we're going to let this draft finish out. And here it is. So round one, we would have loved to have traded back, but it was going to be too far to be able to go through the process that we want to go through, which was edge in round one. And really, you don't want to fall all the way to 26. You're probably going to miss out on someone you like. Now, we could have did that and potentially taken Walter Nolan. But we've done that before. We've traded back. I wanted to see what it would look like if you didn't. So here's Mike Green. We did trade back a little bit, 5 spots. We lost a cornerback we would have considered in Trey Amos, but we got Tyleik Williams, who the 49ers met with a 30 visit. So 30 visit meeting, 30 visit meeting, 30 visit meeting. Those are the first 3 picks. Omar Norman Lott in round 3. He is the best pass rusher as far as win rate in the entire draft at 20%. So you got your 1 tech, you got a 3 tech. That can win. And I'm thinking third downs with Mike Green and Omar Norman Lott. That's going to be pretty impressive. Then we needed to move tight end. We missed out on our guy, Terrence Ferguson. He went 1 pick before us. The Chiefs jumped up and got him. And so we went with Elijah Arroyo, but a lot of athleticism, talent as a move tight end. He fits the bill. He's not going to have to block a lot. He's just going to have to win when he's out there. Miles Frazier, another 30 visit meeting for the 49ers. And he's going to man the middle. He's going to come in and compete for left guard and see if he can take a spot as a mid-round selection. Big guy, 6'5", 317 pounds, but runs a 4.9. He can move. This guy fits what the 49ers do. Kobe Bryant, another 30 visit, hyper-athletic cornerback who lacks a little bit when it comes to weight, but we've seen this work out. Look at Sauce Gardner, for instance. So a guy that has some press man abilities, to be able to play there, but has the ability to play zone as well. He's pretty smart and hyperactive, making plays on the football. CJ West was just too good a value there, so we did double up with bigger defensive linemen who can stop the run. But West has some upside pass rush. Tyleik Williams has upside pass rush. So we liked both of them as run stoppers. Omar Norman Lott is the pass rusher of the 3 defensive tackles that we took. Danny Stutzman, just finding a 5th round value who's a tackling machine, who has really good feel, plays the run, significant, to step in day one and be your Sam linebacker. But the 4.5 athleticism shows got the ability to maybe be a will linebacker in the future if he got better at drops and in coverage. That's going to be a question mark. But in the 5th round, a lot of value to see what's there, especially for a 6'3", 233-pound linebacker who fits what the 49ers like. Andrew Armstrong, the 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver out of Arkansas, highly productive, playing opposite of Isaac Tesla. Tesla's jumping up boards. Armstrong, not so much, but hyper productive, having over 70 catches for over 1,100 yards. Absolutely phenomenal. Robert Longerbeam, who is the quintessential Kobe Bryant. So we got 2 of these guys. You're hoping that one works out, but both, if they do, are going to give you added depth. Both need to work on a little bit of size. We could have went with a different cornerback, but I kind of liked it for conversation points. I'm not saying this is what would happen in the final mock, but getting one of these guys, both these guys drive on the football as 2 of the best in the entire draft. Like, that's their superpower, is how quickly they get out of their back pedal and drive on a ball and knock it away. Pass deflections all over the place, playmakers, and both willing to come up and hit you. It doesn't always work out, but both are willing, which means once they put on a little bit more size, could be impact cornerbacks for the 49ers. And then Chandler Martin, a guy that I think should go way higher in this draft, linebacker that runs sideline to sideline, instant special teams players, Stutzman, Chandler Martin. Those guys are instant special teams players that can help you. Same with Andrew Armstrong. And you've got to make sure you address special teams when you're making these picks as well. Stutzman can play on all 5 units. Same with Chandler Martin. These dudes are ready, set to go, but can also help you when it comes to depth at linebacker. I think Chandler Martin could eventually be a will linebacker. I think Danny Stutzman could eventually be a will linebacker. So this is some guys you can add to a pretty young, talented group and just see what happens. So this is the 49ers mock draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm always curious what you guys have to say about where I went with picks, but this was the method. I wanted to go edge in round 1, defensive tackle in round 2, potentially defensive tackle in round 3, depending on who was there. Maybe if the right cornerback was there, you go there, but they've been meeting with mid-round corners. So keeping with that method, it looks like the first 3 picks could be guys inside the box. So we did that in this one, and I thought it worked out pretty well. I would have loved to have gotten my hands on guys like TJ Sanders, right, and some of those, but we got some talented guys who could stop the run, guys who could get after the quarterback And what we did was retool Robert Sala's defense. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for watching this episode, on Believe Network. I really appreciate you guys all watching it. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.